The crisp, clean air of a Calgary winter nipped at exposed skin, a stark contrast to the warm glow emanating from the windows of the city's upscale homes. Snow, pristine and undisturbed, blanketed every surface, transforming the city into a winter wonderland. It was within this idyllic setting that Liam and Isabella had built their seemingly perfect life. They were the epitome of a power couple, young, successful, and deeply in love. Their story had begun amidst the exhilarating rush of a ski weekend in Banff. The majestic peaks of the Rocky Mountains provided a breathtaking backdrop to their budding romance. Liam, a gifted software engineer, was immediately captivated by Isabella's radiant energy and sharp wit. Isabella, a rising star in the competitive energy sector, was drawn to Liam's quiet strength and unwavering dedication. Their connection was undeniable, a magnetic pull that drew them together with irresistible force. 18 months later, they stood before their closest friends and family, exchanging vows in a charming, snow-covered chapel. The warmth of their love filled the room, a beacon against the biting winter chill. They were a picture-perfect couple, their smiles radiant, their eyes filled with hope and promise. Liam's career was on an upward trajectory, his innovative software solutions in high demand. Frequent business trips to tech hubs like Vancouver and Toronto were a necessary part of his job, but he always made sure to return to Isabella, his anchor, his safe haven. Isabella's career was equally flourishing, her ambition and drive propelling her up the corporate ladder. She was a force to be reckoned with, her presence commanding respect and admiration. Their life together was a carefully curated blend of comfort and luxury. Evenings were spent curled up by the fireplace, the crackling flames casting a warm glow on their faces as they shared stories and dreams. Weekends were reserved for exhilarating ski trips, the thrill of carving down the slopes a shared passion. And when they craved a touch of elegance, they indulged in romantic dinners at the city's finest restaurants, savoring exquisite cuisine and fine wines. Liam was immensely proud of Isabella. She was the embodiment of a modern woman, strong, independent, and successful. He saw their relationship as a testament to the power of love and ambition, a shining example of what a couple could achieve together. "We're a team," he'd often say, his voice filled with admiration. "We can conquer anything." But beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect life, subtle cracks were beginning to appear. Liam's frequent absences, though necessary for his career, created a void that Isabella struggled to fill. She threw herself into her work, the long hours and demanding projects a way to distract herself from the loneliness that gnawed at her when Liam was away. One evening, as they sat by the fire, a rare moment of quiet intimacy, Liam reached for Isabella's hand. Her fingers were cold, her touch distant. He looked into her eyes, searching for the spark that had once burned so brightly. But he saw only a flicker, a hint of something hidden beneath the surface. "Is everything all right, Isabella?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. She hesitated, her gaze drifting away. "Everything's fine, Liam," she replied, her voice strained. "Just a lot on my mind lately." He wanted to press her, to delve deeper into the unspoken tension that hung in the air, but he held back, respecting her need for space. He trusted her, believed in their love, but a nagging feeling lingered, a sense that something was amiss, a disquieting whisper that hinted at a storm brewing on the horizon. The idyllic facade of Liam and Isabella's marriage began to crumble, the once solid foundation now riddled with subtle yet unsettling cracks. After 3 years of wedded bliss, Liam noticed a disturbing shift in Isabella's behavior. The late nights at the office, once occasional, became a regular occurrence. Business trips, once scheduled and predictable, now seemed spontaneous and shrouded in secrecy. Isabella's once vibrant energy was replaced by a weariness that permeated her every move, her laughter replaced by a strained silence. The warmth that once filled their home dissipated, replaced by a chilling tension that hung heavy in the air. Their conversations, once filled with shared dreams and aspirations, now revolved around mundane tasks and awkward silences. The physical intimacy that had once been a cornerstone of their relationship dwindled, replaced by fleeting kisses and perfunctory hugs. The once passionate spark had flickered and died, leaving behind a cold, empty void. Liam, desperate to rekindle the flame, planned romantic evenings, surprised Isabella with thoughtful gifts, and even suggested they take a weekend getaway to their favorite cabin in the mountains. But his efforts were met with indifference, Isabella's responses curt and dismissive. "I'm just tired, Liam," she'd say, her voice devoid of emotion. "Work has been incredibly demanding lately." Their arguments, once rare and easily resolved, escalated into heated debates, fueled by resentment and unspoken accusations. Liam, longing for the closeness they once shared, suggested he cut back on his business trips, prioritizing their relationship. Isabella vehemently opposed the idea, her voice laced with a sharp edge. "My career is just as important as yours, Liam," she retorted, her eyes flashing with anger. "I won't sacrifice my ambitions for anyone." One evening, while cleaning out their car, Liam stumbled upon a silk scarf, its vibrant hue foreign to his eyes. It was delicate, expensive, and unmistakably not Isabella's. A cold dread washed over him, a sense of unease settling deep in his gut. He knew, instinctively, that something was terribly wrong. He held the scarf in his hands, examining its intricate pattern, searching for a clue, an explanation. But there was none. Just an unsettling silence, a deafening whisper that echoed his deepest fears. He tried to dismiss his suspicions, to rationalize the situation, but the nagging feeling persisted, gnawing at his peace of mind. He confronted Isabella, his voice trembling slightly. "Isabella, I found this scarf in the car," he said, holding it out to her. "It's not yours, is it?" Isabella's eyes widened, a flicker of panic flashing across her face. She snatched the scarf from his hands, her cheeks flushed. It's a gift from a colleague," she stammered, her voice wavering. "A thank you for helping her with a project." Liam stared at her, his heart sinking. He wanted to believe her, to trust her, but her evasive demeanor and the tremor in her voice spoke volumes. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that their once perfect world was shattering, the cracks in their relationship now too wide to ignore. The weight of suspicion pressed down on Liam, an invisible burden that grew heavier with each passing day. He watched Isabella's every move, searching for clues, for any sign that would confirm his worst fears. But she was elusive, her behavior subtly changed, her eyes guarded, her words carefully chosen. The frustration gnawed at him, the uncertainty a constant torment. He needed answers, concrete proof that would either confirm or dispel his doubts. After wrestling with his conscience, he made a decision that felt both necessary and invasive. He purchased a discreet GPS tracking device, a small, unassuming piece of technology that would allow him to monitor Isabella's movements. He installed it in her car, the act leaving a bitter taste in his mouth, a sense of betrayal that mirrored his own suspicions. That evening, Isabella announced that she had to work late, a familiar refrain that now sent a shiver down Liam's spine. He watched as she left, the taillights of her car disappearing into the darkness. He opened his laptop, the GPS tracking software displaying her location in real time. He watched as her car moved through the city streets, a digital representation of her journey. His heart pounded in his chest as he saw her car pull into the parking lot of an upscale hotel in the heart of downtown Calgary. The name of the hotel flashed on the screen, a place known for its luxurious suites and discreet clientele. A wave of nausea washed over him, the realization hitting him with the force of a physical blow. He couldn't stay still, couldn't bear the thought of waiting, of imagining what was happening inside those walls. He grabbed his keys, his hands trembling, and rushed out the door. The drive to the hotel was a blur, his mind racing, his emotions a chaotic mix of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. He parked his car across the street, his eyes fixed on the hotel's entrance. He watched as Isabella emerged, her hand linked with that of a tall, handsome man. They walked arm in arm, their body language intimate, their laughter echoing in the cold night air. Liam's world shattered, the image before him a stark, undeniable confirmation of his deepest fears. He felt a searing pain in his chest, a sense of betrayal so profound that it threatened to consume him. He watched as they entered the hotel, the doors closing behind them, sealing their fate. He stood there, frozen, his gaze fixed on the now closed doors, his mind replaying the scene over and over again. He felt like a ghost, an invisible observer watching his own life unravel. The woman he loved, the woman he trusted, had betrayed him in the most devastating way. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that his marriage was over. The reflection he had seen in Isabella's eyes, the image of their love that he had cherished, had been shattered, replaced by a cold, empty void. The raw, biting chill of the Calgary winter mirrored the icy emptiness that had taken root in Liam's soul. Witnessing Isabella's betrayal had shattered his world, leaving him adrift in a sea of pain and confusion. He couldn't bear the thought of confronting her, of enduring the inevitable lies and justifications. He needed to escape, to find a place where he could gather the fragments of his broken heart and begin to heal. He decided to leave their shared apartment, to seek refuge in the solitude of the Alberta countryside. He thought of Ryder, an old friend who had weathered a similar storm years ago. Ryder had always been a source of strength and wisdom, a man who understood the complexities of love and loss. Liam reached out to him, his voice heavy with pain, and Ryder offered him a lifeline. He invited Liam to stay on his sprawling property, a secluded haven nestled amidst the rolling hills of rural Alberta. "You need time, Liam," Ryder said, his voice firm yet compassionate. "Time to process, to grieve, to find yourself again." He offered Liam the use of a vintage RV, a cozy refuge where he could retreat from the world. Under the cover of darkness, while Isabella was at work, Liam began to pack his belongings. He moved with a quiet determination, his movements precise and efficient. He packed only the essentials: clothes, his laptop, a few cherished books, and a handful of photographs that captured happier times. He left behind the remnants of their shared life, the tangible reminders of a love that had turned to ash. He didn't want to leave a note, didn't want to engage in a drawn-out confrontation. He simply wanted to disappear, to erase himself from Isabella's life, as she had erased him from hers. He loaded his belongings into his truck, the silence in the apartment deafening. He paused at the door, his hand hovering over the doorknob, a flicker of doubt momentarily clouding his resolve. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and turned the knob. He stepped out into the hallway, the door clicking shut behind him. A final, definitive act. He walked down the stairs, his footsteps echoing in the empty stairwell. He reached his truck, slid into the driver's seat, and turned the key. The engine roared to life, a defiant sound that broke the stillness of the night. As he drove away, he glanced back at the apartment building, its windows dark and lifeless. He felt a pang of sadness, a fleeting moment of regret, but he quickly pushed it aside, focusing on the road ahead, on the promise of a new beginning. He was leaving behind a life built on lies and deceit, a life that had become a suffocating cage. He was heading towards the vast, open spaces of Alberta, towards the promise of solitude and healing. He was embarking on a journey of self-discovery, a journey to reclaim his life, his happiness, his very soul. Isabella continued her life, oblivious to the seismic shift that had occurred beneath her feet. Her days were a blur of meetings, deadlines, and clandestine encounters. She moved through her world with an air of detached efficiency. Her focus narrowed, her emotions compartmentalized. She believed she was in control, that she could juggle her professional and personal lives with practiced ease. One morning, she returned to their apartment, her mind preoccupied with the details of an upcoming presentation. She opened the door, expecting to find the familiar comfort of their shared space, but instead, she was met with an unsettling emptiness. The apartment was eerily quiet, the air thick with an unspoken tension. She moved through the rooms, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Liam's belongings were gone, his side of the closet bare, his dresser drawers empty. The photographs that once adorned the walls had been removed, leaving behind faint outlines, ghostly reminders of their shared past. A cold dread washed over her, a sense of panic tightening its grip. She rushed to the kitchen, her eyes scanning the countertop, searching for a note, an explanation. She found a single piece of paper, folded neatly, resting on the dining table. Her heart pounded in her chest as she unfolded it, her hands trembling. The note contained a single line, stark and unforgiving. Hope it was worth it. Beside it lay Liam's wedding ring, a cold metallic circle that mocked the vows they had exchanged. Isabella's world spun, the reality of the situation crashing down on her with brutal force. She felt a wave of nausea, her legs buckling beneath her. She sank into a nearby chair, her mind reeling, her emotions a chaotic storm. She grabbed her phone, her fingers fumbling as she dialed Liam's number. The call went straight to voicemail, a cold, impersonal message informing her that the number had been blocked. She tried texting, her messages going unanswered. She called their mutual friends, her voice frantic, her questions met with blank stares and awkward silences. No one had seen Liam. No one knew where he had gone. He had vanished, leaving behind no trace, no explanation. He had become a ghost, a phantom, erased from her life as if he had never existed. Isabella felt a sense of disorientation, a feeling of being adrift in a world that had suddenly shifted on its axis. The man she loved, the man she had betrayed, had disappeared, leaving behind a void that stretched before her, an emptiness that echoed the hollowness within her own heart. The relentless passage of time, marked by the stark, unforgiving winters of Alberta, began to chip away at Isabella's denial. Week after week, she called, texted, and pleaded, her voice growing increasingly desperate, her messages laced with a raw vulnerability she had never allowed herself to express. But Liam's silence remained unbroken, a wall of ice separating them, a testament to the depth of her betrayal. The realization that Liam had truly left her, that he was no longer a part of her life, settled upon her like a suffocating shroud. She finally accepted the truth, the bitter pill of her own making. She dialed his number one last time, her voice trembling, her words a desperate plea. "Liam," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "I know you can't hear me, but I need you to know. I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I was selfish. I was blind. I never meant to hurt you." She paused, her voice choked with tears. "Please, Liam, just talk to me. Tell me you're okay." She poured out her heart, confessing her affair, attempting to explain her actions, to justify her betrayal. But her words fell on deaf ears, her apologies lost in the vast, empty space between them. Liam had moved on, had found solace in the solitude of the Alberta wilderness. He lived in the vintage RV, a mobile sanctuary that allowed him to roam freely, to explore the vast, untamed beauty of the province. He spent his days hiking through snow-covered trails, the crunch of his boots the only sound that broke the stillness of the winter air. He found solace in the towering pines, the majestic mountains, the endless expanse of the prairie sky. He rediscovered the simple pleasures of life, the warmth of a crackling fire, the taste of freshly brewed coffee, the quiet companionship of a good book. He spent hours reading, writing, and reflecting, delving into the depths of his soul, confronting the pain and anger that had consumed him. He learned to forgive, not for Isabella, but for himself. He learned to let go of the past, to release the bitterness that had poisoned his heart. He learned to embrace the present, to find joy in the simple act of being alive. He found peace in the solitude, a sense of calm that had eluded him for so long. He was healing slowly but surely, like the thawing of the ice that blanketed the land, a gradual process of renewal and rebirth. He was reclaiming his life, his happiness, his very essence. A year had passed. A year of solitude and self-discovery for Liam. A year of regret and longing for Isabella. The harsh Alberta winter had once again descended upon the land, a stark reminder of the emotional chill that had settled between them. One crisp, snow-laden afternoon, Liam found himself in a cozy cafe in Banff, seeking warmth and a moment of respite from the biting wind. He sat by the window, sipping his coffee, his gaze drifting towards the snow-covered peaks of the mountains. Suddenly, his eyes fell upon a familiar figure, a woman who looked both familiar and strangely altered. It was Isabella. She looked gaunt, her eyes shadowed, her once vibrant energy replaced by a weariness that permeated her every movement. She approached his table, her steps hesitant, her expression a mixture of hope and trepidation. "Liam," she said, her voice barely a whisper, Can I sit with you?" He nodded, his heart pounding in his chest, a mixture of emotions swirling within him. He watched as she settled into the chair opposite him, her gaze fixed on her hands, her fingers nervously twisting a napkin. She began to speak, her voice trembling, her words a torrent of regret and remorse. She told him about her life since he had left, the emptiness that had consumed her, the loneliness that had become her constant companion. She spoke of her failed relationship with her lover, the man she had betrayed Liam with, a relationship that had crumbled under the weight of her guilt and remorse. She told him about her career, once a source of pride and ambition, now a burden, a constant reminder of her misplaced priorities. She spoke of the nights she had spent alone, haunted by the memory of his love, his kindness, his unwavering support. "I made a terrible mistake, Liam," she said, her voice choked with tears. "I took you for granted. I didn't appreciate what I had until it was gone." She looked at him, her eyes pleading, her voice filled with a desperate longing. "Please, Liam," she begged, "give me another chance. Let me make it up to you. Let's rebuild our life together." Liam listened, his heart aching for the woman he had once loved, but the warmth he had once felt for her had been replaced by a cold, hard shell. He looked at her, his eyes filled with a quiet sadness. "Isabella," he said, his voice gentle but firm, "I'm sorry, but I can't. I've moved on. I've changed. I'm not the same person I was a year ago." He paused, searching for the right words, the words that would convey the depth of his transformation. "I don't love you anymore, Isabella," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "and I don't trust you." Isabella, her eyes brimming with tears, refused to accept Liam's rejection. She pleaded with him, her voice thick with emotion, her words laced with desperation. "Liam, please," she begged, her hands reaching out to grasp his. "Don't do this. I've changed. I'm not the same person I was a year ago." She tried to convince him that she had learned from her mistakes, that she had paid the price for her betrayal. She spoke of her loneliness, her regret, her unwavering love for him. She promised to make amends, to rebuild their relationship, to prove to him that she was worthy of his forgiveness. Liam listened patiently, his expression unwavering, his eyes filled with a quiet resolve. He understood her pain, her longing, her desperate attempt to salvage what was left of their shattered past, but his heart remained unmoved, his resolve unshaken. "Isabella," he said, his voice calm but firm, "I understand that you've changed. But so have I. I'm not the man you left behind. I've learned to live without you. I've found peace and happiness in my solitude. I can't go back to the past." He looked at her, his eyes filled with a quiet sadness. "You broke my trust, Isabella," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "You destroyed everything we had. There's no going back from that." Isabella's tears flowed freely, her body shaking with sobs. She pleaded with him, promising to wait for him, to prove her love. "I'll wait for you, Liam," she cried, her voice filled with desperation. "I'll wait as long as it takes. Just, just don't give up on me." Liam shook his head, his heart aching for her pain, but his resolve unwavering. "Isabella," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "There's nothing to wait for. It's over." Isabella, her voice trembling, revealed that she had accepted a new job in Vancouver, a fresh start, a chance to rebuild her life. She looked at Liam, her eyes filled with a desperate hope. "Come with me, Liam," she pleaded. "Let's start over, together. We can build a new life in Vancouver, away from the pain and the memories." Liam shook his head, his gaze unwavering. "I'm not going to Vancouver, Isabella," he said, his voice firm. "I'm not leaving Alberta. This is my home now. This is where I belong." He paused, his eyes filled with a quiet determination. "I've built a new life here, Isabella," he said, his voice filled with a newfound strength. "A life of peace, of solitude, of self-discovery. I'm not going to give that up." He looked at her, his eyes filled with a quiet sadness. "I'm sorry, Isabella," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "But it's over. There's nothing left for us." The encounter with Isabella, though painful, served as a final, definitive closure for Liam. He realized that he had truly moved on, that the man she had known was no longer within him. He was a different person, forged in the fires of betrayal and tempered by the solitude of the wilderness. He made the decision to sever all ties with Isabella, to block her number, to delete her emails, to erase her presence from his life. He needed to protect his newfound peace, to safeguard the fragile sense of self he had painstakingly rebuilt. He immersed himself in his life in Alberta, embracing the solitude, the serenity, the unadulterated beauty of the natural world. He spent his days hiking through the mountains, kayaking on pristine lakes, and exploring the vast expanse of the prairie. He found solace in the rhythm of nature, in the changing seasons, in the quiet solitude of his own company. He learned to forgive, not for Isabella, but for himself. He learned to release the anger, the resentment, the bitterness that had consumed him for so long. He learned to accept the past, to acknowledge the pain, and to move forward with a renewed sense of purpose. Spring arrived, slowly but surely, like a gentle whisper, a promise of renewal. The snow began to melt, revealing the verdant green of the land beneath. The buds on the trees swelled, bursting forth with vibrant new life. The air was filled with the sweet scent of wildflowers, the cheerful chirping of birds, the promise of a new beginning. Liam felt a sense of liberation, a lightness of being he hadn't experienced in years. He felt like he was emerging from a long, dark winter, stepping into the warm embrace of spring. He felt a sense of hope, of optimism, of excitement for the future. He knew that he had survived the harshest winter of his life, that he had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. He knew that he was ready to embrace the new season of his life, to welcome the warmth, the light, the promise of new beginnings. He looked out at the vast expanse of the Alberta landscape, the rolling hills, the snow-capped mountains, the endless blue sky. He felt a sense of gratitude, of awe, of profound connection to the natural world. He knew that he had found his place, his peace, his purpose. He was home. Liam's journey, from the depths of despair to the heights of self-discovery, had come full circle. He stood at the edge of a new chapter, his heart filled with gratitude, his soul at peace. He looked back on the past year, the year that had tested him, broken him, and ultimately redefined him. He had learned invaluable lessons, lessons that he knew would guide him for the rest of his life. He had learned the importance of self-love, of prioritizing his own well-being, of not sacrificing his happiness for the sake of another. He had learned that forgiveness was not about condoning the actions of others, but about freeing himself from the shackles of resentment and bitterness. He had learned that life was not about clinging to the past, but about embracing the present, about seizing the opportunities that lay ahead. He had learned that true strength was not about suppressing emotions, but about acknowledging them, processing them, and moving forward with resilience and grace. He wanted to share his hard-earned wisdom with others, to offer a beacon of hope to those who had experienced the pain of betrayal. He wanted to remind them that they were not alone, that they were not defined by their past, that they had the power to reclaim their lives, to find happiness again. He began to write, his words flowing freely, his voice authentic and raw. He wrote about his experiences, his struggles, his triumphs. He wrote about the lessons he had learned, the insights he had gained, the hope he had discovered. He shared his story with the world, his message resonating with those who had walked a similar path. He became a voice for the brokenhearted, a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of the human spirit. He concluded his story with a message of hope, a message that echoed the wisdom he had gained from his journey. Let go of the past and move forward. Your life is more important than those who betrayed you. He had learned that forgiveness was not about forgetting, but about liberating oneself from the chains of resentment and pain. It was about choosing to heal, to grow, to embrace the future with open arms. Liam's story was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can prevail. Amidst the majestic beauty of the Canadian Rockies, he had found peace, freedom, and a renewed faith in life.